Alrighty. Well, it appears my other phone has decided to stuff up a bit. I was about 20 minutes into this video and it decided to go, oh, that's enough, I've had enough. Bang. Turned off. Can't even get the bloody thing to turn back on and boot up properly, so we're going to have to take it over and charge it up. Well, not take it over and charge it up. Charger's in the other house. I'll have to go and get the charger and plug it in here because, as you can see, we've got plenty of solar power at the moment. And I should go and get the damn charger back. I've got to clean up that house too today because I've got to be out of there in a few days because they are coming back. Want their house back. Yeah. I've got a few things to tell you guys. Some of you, I know one person will be pissed. They'll tell me I'm trying around. It's to do with the roof. I was going to replace the roof this year. I've decided I'm not going to. Well, I was very concerned that it wasn't going to last long. It was based on a not terribly great understanding of roofs. I know the roof is shit, but it's holding water out still. It does need replacing, but it's not that it's actually failing to hold the water out. It's just that it's getting bloody old, and well, there's a few bends and a few roof sheets in a few places, and there's a lot of silicon and shit on some of these bits and pieces. I want to try and finish a few more bits of the box thorn. I've got to finish bringing up all this. I've been working on this quite a bit. There's more than it looks. I might go in the back and show you. Sorry if there's any wind noise. It's just these light winds again that are enough to stuff your microphone up, but won't actually generate any power out of a wind turbine. A lot of shorter bits that I'm getting up with the wheelbarrow, but there's plenty more to go. And there's a few stacks that still need burning, but it rained like a night or two ago. Would have been perfect to burn it, but then it go and rain on me. But I'll probably try and burn it at a later point, maybe tomorrow or something. Probably not. We'll see. And there's probably another stack or two that I could make and probably should make. Maybe will, maybe won't, but I just want to finish burning a few bits that need burning in particular. And I also want to get on with this bizarre project that is something the likes of which most people will be surprised to see, very surprised. It's not an undoable technology. Like, it's not that this technology doesn't exist. It's the way in which it's used, and the fact that, in large part, in one area, the technology has gotten to a certain level that it is realistic to use it for this application. Not 100% realistic, but more realistic than it ever could have realistically ever been. It was not practical previously. Now it is half practical, sort of practical, so I'm going to have a shot at doing it. And when you see what I've done to what to create what, you'll be pretty bloody flabbergasted. You'll be pretty surprised. Yeah. Anyway, I realised the other day that, long story short, the rubber's got to hit the road on getting a woman. You know, hell. One part of my life that is a true train wreck has been my love life, you know. A lot of other things I can get sorted, you know, fix this joint back up, successfully live off grid. It's the other little banger I put up the other day. But one thing I can't really get a grasp on is getting a woman and whatnot. there's a multitude of different reasons. I probably should touch on a few of those. A lot of it has to do with, you go watch When Dates Attack 1, 2 and 3. Do a channel search next to the About section. You got a little magnifying glass. Click on that. Just type in Dates Attack or just Attack, and you'll probably see When Dates Attack 1, 2 and 3 come up. That'll give you a bit of a history of what things are like. It's just a circus. Just a train wreck. It's pretty unfortunate what happened with me and Little Miss, but that was, once again, there you got 9 months. I feel stupid to have been strung out for so long with so little to go on. I mean, I'm like the fish that doesn't need any bait, and I only need a little lure that's so small you can barely see it. You know, I felt stupid, really, quite honestly, to be strung out for so long, living on trust and hope for 9 months straight. She didn't exactly catfish me, because she did exist as a real person, and I've seen her and she's seen me. But that was about all it got to. It never got to real dates or anything, you know, and it's just bullshit. Long story short, these paid internet dating sites, some of them have got reasonable women on there, you know, and you may find a chance there, or you may just find you're dealing with a fussy yuppie. And in my case, you know, these yuppie girls on RSVP, hey, they're career chasing girls, they're city girls, they're yuppies in a yuppie lifestyle looking for another yuppie bloke, and they will probably find their hipster who deliberately dresses weirdly to make a point of trying to pretend that they're alternative, to make themselves look different from what they are, which is just another city dweller who spends a lot of time, too much time, checking social media on their iPhone. And meanwhile, real blokes who live real alternatively don't get a bloody hope, because they don't have the white-collar job and the desire to live in a city rammed in next to each other like friggin' battery hens. They call that apartment living. With all the services they could need wired on, but when the power goes off and the gas plant in Longford explodes, or some workers go on strike or something, they're up shit creek in a barbed wire canoe yet again. It always makes me laugh, all these greenies who are so interested in living off grid, and they're all, so many of them you come across. I'm getting ready to do it, we're going to do it, da 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 da. Holy smoke, they're like Troy. They just string it out, string it out, string it out. We're going to do it, I'm going to show you, we're going to be this, and they never do it. You know why they never do it? Because they couldn't handle the alternative of going and lighting up a wood-fired heater. They really aren't good with their hands or with mechanical skills, so if shit goes wrong, they don't know what they've got to adjust, they don't know what they've got to do to keep shit like this running. Those holes, by the way, are for when I do have it running, or if I overflow the water when I refill it, for the water to run out. I didn't show that on the other video. But anyways, yuppie girls and me wouldn't match anyway, because I'm living off grid, and the niceties of the dream of what Granny's dream it's supposed to be like and the reality is two separate things. And they can't live without their iPhones and their air conditioning, so that's where reality bites, and why this dream exists but it's not reality. Anyway, I'm getting off track. I think, really speaking, the rubber has to hit the road on getting a woman, because I don't want to be like my grandfather, who was 42 when he got married. Like, he was in his 70s when my dad was age 20, you know, when they were fixing up cars and getting stuff sorted in life. He was too fucking old to help, you know. He was just farmer slogging it out manually, and you're 70-something years old. Like, he was dead when he was 78. Like, you know, and my dad says, oh, it's nothing wrong with getting married late, because, I mean, he was still dad, and we looked at him as dad, yeah, but, like, it was too old to have fun with his kids because of that, and I got this feeling that though I've been sort of, you know, crushed by all this bullshit with little miss, you know, who at one point there accused me of wasting her time, and I said, well, you're friggin' 21, 22. You've still got time left. I'm running out of time, and you just wasted 9 months on something that you knew was never going to get anywhere. You know, but I can't sort of sit there begrudging all that shit. I don't want to be one of these old dudes that just sits there going, you know, with a chip on my shoulder, bitching and moaning that girls this, girls that, blah, blah, blah. I do want to get on with this and get something sorted. And I realise that internet dating is nothing short of a joke. A lot of these free sites are just full of girls who it's just... Fuck. Give you a few examples. I went on this site again the other day, back on Plenty of Fish. I haven't been on there, you know, for like a year and a half or something like this. Well, I got on there at least a year and a half ago. Well, no, been nearly 2 years ago. Let's put it like this, in the latter stages, before I started getting serious with Little Miss and all that, I talked to a girl who was, just for one night, she was pretty far gone pregnant, and her kid is now 15 months old, so, and lo and behold, she's still looking for a bloke, but somehow she's pregnant again. Oh. I noticed the average girl on there used to be single mum with one kid. Now it's actually single mum with 2 kids is the average one on there. In the last 18 months. Alrighty. There's some that are real Captain Obvious on there, you know. There's a girl who, and it's not her fault, but honestly, I didn't think anybody looked like that outside of zombie movies. And on the title there, Why Doesn't Anyone Want Me? Ooh. But that's not her fault. But a lot of them, they got a lot of issues. A girl on there who, like, I thought, oh, you know, there's really a chance with this girl here. You know, I'm 33, I'll be 34 in a few months' time. This girl was 31. Not super pretty or anything like that, but definitely not ugly. You couldn't fault anything. Blonde and brown hair, large curls. 31, as I said, with a job. Doesn't live terribly far away from me. A title, thinking of joining a nunnery. And I said, you know what, I'm sort of just about ready to join the bloody monastery and become a monk as well. And I said, I just don't seem to get anywhere. And I said, I've got everything that sets me ahead of the average tattooed fucking dickhead. You know, and all this. I've got a house, you know, I've got a job, okay, it's might only be making, you know, $500-600 a week, but, you know, I do have money coming in. Some of them say I want a man with a stable income, and then they put in brackets, that does not mean welfare income. You know, and this is the thing, and yet I'm still getting nowhere. I told her, I had one girl who strung me out for 9 months, and without even a date, and she sent a reply back, yeah, I know some people are batshit crazy. And then I said, I sort of RSVP, you know, was all right, but they're all city girls who, you know, they're reasonable girls, but they're all white-collar workers. They had a profession. They're usually either teachers or nurses. And by the way, you can find stacks of nurses and quite a number of primary school teachers on RSVP if you wanted to know, and on all dating sites, really. Just seems a hell of a lot of nurses because they work weird shifts, and some also bakers because they work weird shifts as well. Or event managers, that's another one you see quite a bit because they've got to work weekends running these, you know, events and shit. But a lot of these girls are, you know, one of them there, great girl, you know, sort of largish, half Irish, half Swedish. She really looks Swedish. The beautiful blue eyes, the blonde hair. Even though she's a little bit on the big side, she was a teacher. And would you ever consider living in the country? No, would never consider living long-term in the country. Might go there for the weekend once or twice a year, but that'll be it. You know, and I just I can't live in the capital. It'd just kill me, you know. And this girl replied and said, yeah, you know, I love living in the country too. And then I told her about a few of the things out here. You know, the eagles and kestrels, and I used to have a black-shouldered kite that sort of lived in the trees around the house. And I got a video of him sitting in that tree actually, but I think he actually lived in had a nest in one of these trees, one of them, or that one or that one. But, you know, to mention that, like, eagles coming over and grabbing rabbits and whatnot, didn't hear anything for like 2 or 3 days. So I sent another one and said, so what do you do for work? And I said, I sort of work with pigs and whatnot. Day or two went by, no reply. I realised this is a Saturday afternoon, and yet she still hasn't got the time to reply. I've just said, fuck this. I know what's going on here. And I just sent her a message saying, have fun in the nunnery, and then I sent her another one saying, sorry, I didn't really mean to be nasty like that, but sometimes it's just Captain Obvious, you know. How can you say that you might as well join the nunnery if you can't even respond to a bloke who is living near you, has a job, has a house, and within a realistic age range of yourself? We're both white, we've both been brought up in the same era, the same generation, and yet can't respond, and yet, oh, it's hopeless, I might as well join a nunnery. A lot of it is Captain Obvious. A lot of them you just don't even get a response from. They're not trying, you know. They all want a tough, tattooed man who loves bikes and is a tradie. Well, I'm not going to fake and pretend I'm one of those, but you can go out with a bloke who you find out that motorbike, he's only hired the damn thing or borrowed it off a mate, or he doesn't even have one, and he just keeps talking about a motorbike he never has, and he keeps talking that he's a tradie when in fact he's stacking the bloody shelves in Woolworths before fucking dobbing me into the cops for taking something out of my pocket and putting it back in again. And, you know, it's just like, and these girls sort of just spiral around and around in circles, you know. As I said, it's been more than 18 months, probably, you know, closing in on 2 years since I first joined that site. And I realised that 1/5 of the girls, when I rejoined the other day, 1/5 of the girls are the same girls that were on there when I joined the first time around. Catch-22, stuck in their own spirals, expecting too much, Captain Obvious, or some other issue that's ongoing that they just don't sort of seem to get out of. They just keep seeming to spin around in circles. But, you know, it's bullshit, and I've got to get out there in the real world instead of piss-farting around with these fucking girls on these sites that just aren't suitable. It's as simple as that. And there's ChristianMingle.com, and there's HikingSingles.com, and yeah, but I'll just be travelling down the same path again. After a little miss, I started talking to another Samoan girl who was about the same age as her, who was even fatter. And I just thought to myself, dude, what the fuck are you doing? You know, you're about to make history repeat itself. And she was willing to meet me, but I just thought, what's the point? You know, like, fuck, she's not your age range. She's wearing a shirt that looks like the side of a fucking military tent. We just need a cut and break from all this sort of shit. So I had a break and cleared my head a bit, and I think I've got to get on with this, but we've got to take a different tack because it's just not working. And I think that is to go out and meet people in the real world. And I haven't been good at that. I'll tell you something that I probably shouldn't tell you, but well, my mother, she's always... I know people love blaming their parents on everything that fucks up in their life, and I don't like to do that sort of shit, because a lot of people, they're responsible for their own actions, or they're given a hand of cards, and they play that hand of cards either good and come out on top, or They play it terribly stupidly and they blow their opportunities. But honestly, you know, she always used to say, "Oh, he's a very quiet boy, he doesn't mix much." Yeah, well, if there was anyone that come round to the house to see the family or to see her or whatever, she would sort of, especially if her friends come around, I have to say hello. And if I don't say hello, I'll get told off, "Oh, you're so rude," later on. If I say more than hello, it's, "Oh, I'm so embarrassed, you were going on about all this stuff and blah, 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 blah." Hey, if I join in the conversation and I hold that conversation for any more than 30 seconds, that's all I get. I'm so embarrassed that you were going on about this and that. How could you do that? You embarrassed me in front of my friends. This fucking all this crap, you know. I got henpecked with shit like that, you know, all my teenage years. If you don't say hello, you get told off. If you say more than hello and you're holding any part of that conversation, then she's embarrassed and she was this and that and she was and everything else. And even when I become good with people in 2005, she still was doing it. And I knew that what I was saying to these people was not rude, was not out of character, was not off the subject, was not derogatory, was not creepy, was not weird, and was not inappropriate, and was not gate crashing the conversation, and yet I was still getting henpecked for it. And one day there I decided to friggin' tell her off back, which was the right thing to do. And I come to realise that this is the thing, you know. Part of the reason, not all the reason, being a computer geek didn't help, but part of the reason was because I'd get the shit blasted out of me, and essentially I've been brought up with the essence that you should only talk to somebody if you've got a deliberate reason to talk to that person. And if it's not a deliberate reason, then you stay out of the conversation and you don't involve yourself in the conversation, because then you'll get told off. But if you don't at least say hi, then you'll also get told off. This sort of henpecking and shit doesn't do anybody good to learn their way in the social world, because, hey, I become what I become, and that was somebody who tends to only, often enough, I'll talk to workmates and have a good conversation with workmates, and then the boss is like, "Get on with the job," sort of thing. And other times, you know, I go out in public and I go to buy stuff, and I know the pure truth is that, you know, like my uncle would start talking to everyone. He'd start talking to the checkout chick. Some of these girls there, they just, you got the shit, they scan it, they say, "How's your day been?" They're only saying, "How's your day been?" because their boss told them to say that. They don't honestly give a rat's ass about my day. Why should they? They don't know who I am. They don't give a fuck who I am. You know, so a lot of times, the only time I go out in public is to buy stuff. And I just go to the counter with my stuff and pay me money and get out of there, you know, and it's as simple as that. I am very highly motivated to do stuff a lot of the time. In my 20s, I used to sit on my ass worse than Troy would, you know. I was like, oh, you know, I was, for all intents and purposes, I was just a complete slack ass in my early 20s, but then I realised that the clock was ticking, and the more time you stuff around, the less you're getting done, you know. So henceforth, you know, the Boxthorns have had a hell of a hammering. There's a couple of stacks there I would like to finish. As I said, I'm not going to do the roof this year. It's waterproof, it needs replacing, but it's holding out the water quite well. But some of the sheets have got a lot of silicate on them, they've got bends in them, starting to rust through into the galvanising. But my sister's roof is far worse than mine is, you know, and it's holding out water fine, and this one's holding out water fine. I think I need to put that stuff on the back burner and concentrate on finding a girl, and it's as simple as that. Not one on a dating site, but one out in the real world. And I'm not naturally inclined to be, I don't know if it's my personality or my upbringing. I think upbringing has a lot to do with it. But I'm not really inclined to go having drawn-out conversations with people. And the real pure fact of the matter is, I have trouble even relaxing. I even have trouble slowing down. Because although in my 20s I didn't do much, these days I'm like a bull at a gate sometimes, which is probably why I end up stretching muscles and stuff like that. But I would like to try and do a bit more with the box sawn, just to get a few more things around, at least burn some of them. And I probably will then go ahead and make another 2 stacks, 3 stacks more, to get out the bulk of them, and then only be left with a couple of giant thickets that I've got to deal with. But with those big thickets, I can leave those to a later date. And the other thing, this whole thing, I've got to get a decent toilet system, you know, and I've considered doing one outside the house and all that sort of thing, and there's somebody I can get who will do one completely off the books. No local government knowledge at all, and they do it really seriously cheap, and they do know what they're doing, and you don't need to be a plumber to install the majority of it. You only need to be a plumber to install the actual toilet. I have a relative who is a plumber. We can obviously cut a deal because he is doing house renovations on rental properties he owns. And I really should get laser levels onto this. In actual fact, if the brother-in-law comes down next time, I'll get him to bring his dumpy down and we'll do a bloody check on this. I always assume that the fall of the land only sort of starts past these trees here, but just looking now, I reckon the lay of the land's... But if I get my brother-in-law to come down here with a dumpy, we can actually get an exact centimetre figure of exactly what the lay of the land's like. But I was a bit worried about putting pipes under the driveway, but my father reckons if they're deep enough it doesn't matter. I'll ask the brother-in-law about that. I'm sure that is really his expertise, is soil types in a civil engineering manner. That is his absolute expertise. That's his profession, and that's the first one he learned. He's since done a lot more in regards to getting houses passed, alternative houses passed, and he's doing more stuff to be able to sign off on occupancy. He's got somebody else who does it for him at the moment, who he pays a very large commission to, but he is getting the paperwork and the licences organised that he can sign off occupancy certificates on houses. But his primary thing was understanding soil types to a massive degree in regards to building civil engineering projects and all that. And he can actually tell you exact what kind of rock you've got and everything on your place just by licking it and cracking it and pissing around with it for a few seconds. And I've seen him do it. It's quite remarkable sort of a skill. But I reckon if we get his dumpy, we'll know what the lay of the land is. And this veranda may have this glass replaced, and it may become actually a toilet. And we'll have nice, quote-unquote, indoor plumbing. And I think that's another thing that's definitely going to happen. Some of you guys, I know you don't think too highly of the house, and I don't blame you. That plumber I was talking about, his father was the same as him. He's highly opinionated. He believes I should do this house up to its former glory, although he has not seen the place since probably about 94. Somewhere around the mid-90s, early 90s there. And the last time they saw it was when they were checking there was no sheep inside because, well, this building was vacant from 1978 when my grandfather's cousin died till 1998 when my uncle moved into that and then moved into this after replacing the floor where the solar fridge is. There's a cable. Oh, yeah. Oh, you can see it. That one there. That's the big heavy cable, or this conduit that has the heavy cable that runs the solar fridge. You need nice big thick cables when you've got a decent amperage draw on 12 volts over, I think the cable's, it's a few metres, it's at least 7 metres I think. But honestly, the height of the house there compared to the other corner of my bedroom, there's about a foot difference. There is a beam that, well, fixing up the brother-in-law's place, he more or less showed me how to do it, that I should replace in my bedroom, and I know how to do it, and I may actually go ahead and do that because it's a couple of jacks, and we've got enough truck jacks and stuff to temporarily hold floor joists, and I can replace a particular beam that I probably should do. And there's borer, isn't there? Borer in the windowsill of the front door. The other, you probably can't see it, so no you can't because this has got crap light. The other door over there for the bathroom. The framing that is hinged off has borer in it. The architrave of my bedroom door has borer in it as well, including, there's little borer holes in the edge of the floor around like where it meets the wall in the bedroom as well, and all the doors line up in the winter and then they misalign in the summer, and you got to re-stump it. Well, maybe I better show you what the stumps actually are in this place, and this is the way it was originally done. They are rocks laying on the ground. And some of those are put there by my uncle, yet he did actually put proper stumps under the floor of the kitchen and this room here with a solar fridge. The other two are the original ones, and well, it's all just rocks laying on the ground. That's what they've done. But this is clay. The soil expands and contracts. The real only proper option is what's called a floating slab, and yet here we are not even using stumps but using rocks that were literally dragged from out of the paddock. The same sort of rocks that they've had round here to make a little fence, a little border. There's a second border that runs around here. Follows that fence there. She's not a long-term option, but having been in building, I realise that a lot of women are more worried about the aesthetics of how something looks. I'm paranoid about the structure. Are your screws big enough? Is that beam heavy enough? Is this going to be strong enough? Do we have cross bracing? That's what I'm thinking in my head. They, on the other hand, give her example of this pergola place, come out to me and handed me this stupid little plastic cover. Now what it was, it's where the post meets the beam that holds the roof, and you screw the roof sheets into. And in that they got like this little, what's it called, like a little stirrup sort of a thing. But the screws go in, and then you got this little plastic cover that goes over the stirrup. Well, all this plastic is all painted, and then it's actually covered in plastic film, a lot like that cling wrap stuff that your mum used to wrap your lunch in as a kid. And you pull that off, and you've had all this stuff on there to avoid any scratches. And you know, that's the way they do it in the factory, and then you just peel that stuff off. And what basically happens is, because it's hot environment, dusty in the middle of summer, and you pull that off, it's very staticky and it attracts all the dust on the paint. And they'd gone and stuck this thing on with silicone. And it's got little clips, but the bloody clips never actually click in properly and sit. So they just used to put a bit of silicone on. Well, they put it on, there's too much dust on there. And of course, those of you who have tried to use sticky tape over something that's very dusty knows that the tape just comes off. Well, the same happens with silicone. And this little thing fell off. And they brought it up to me and said, this fell off. Is this going to be a problem? Has this stopped anything with the structural integrity? And I felt like saying, first of all, that's the first time anybody's even asked me about structural integrity on this place, on these things. Second of all, crack, I should have just snapped it in front of them and said, how much structural integrity do you think was in this plastic cover? That's all it was. It's a plastic cover, so you don't see the screws hanging out. It's just to make it look nice. A lot of these things are made just to look nice. And I must admit, you know, I was never actually going to paint this place, and yet I did, on my father's encouragement, to do with the local council feeling strange about the house. He said that'll make the house look a hell of a lot better. And I said, yeah, I don't want to spend the money. And he said, no, do it. And I did, you know, and it looks good. It come out nice. Better than a whole heap of blotched up grey boards with flecks of lead paint and shit. And, you know, I'm glad I've done it. Now I've put lino down, thanks to little Diddums here, bringing dead rabbits in, and the blood getting on the floor. You know, it looks great with lino, and I tell you what, putting that silver paper under was a very good idea. The heat retention in that room has gone up dramatically just putting that silver paper under the lino. It's worked unbelievably well, actually, better than I ever thought it would. But it is radiant insulation, sarking insulation. But, you know, the room looks a lot better since I put lino in. Isn't that right? Just because of you and your flaming dead rabbits and shit. And I wouldn't say no to putting lino in the rest of the house. I wouldn't say no to painting the walls. To be honest, above me, your usual plywood's made out of softwood. It's made out of pine, and it just looks just like all pine, pretty bland. The plywood that's on the ceiling above me actually looks really nice because it's actually hardwood and that. And I sort of like it, but to be honest, if they want to paint the room all one colour, it's going to take the character out of it. But if they want to do that, well, they can paint the rooms, you know. There's one spot there that I tried to get paint off and it wasn't going to come off. It's near the where we've got the wood stove there in the kitchen. Don't know how we'll go with that, but I could envision a large aluminium trim or something like that over it. And there is stuff that you can get that's like a thin aluminium that's, yeah, you can stick over. Might just be a bit of cement sheet or something. It'd probably be a smarter idea. We'll see, you know. See what they think. Other areas, you know, could do with the paint. My sister's gone bonkers on the wallpaper in that place they've got. She's told they're actually doing more to the place. They're fixing up a couple extra rooms that they weren't going to touch, and yeah. But she put a lot of wallpaper in that place, and she was going on eBay when I was there, buying all this wallpaper up. And a lot of it was, you know, older stuff or second-hand stuff or overstocked or whatever. And some of it was, like, really nice and really thick, heavy-duty sort of paper, you know. And I can still buy wallpaper today, and some of the wallpaper today is crazy. It's got, like, these little soft sort of bits that, I don't know, it feels like fake velvet or something like that. Some of it's friggin' unbelievable, and it's expensive too. But she got a lot of this stuff quite cheap. And, you know, if that's the go, maybe they want to do that, you know. I wouldn't say no to fixing up this house better if that's what a woman needed, is what I'm getting at. On top of that, I also wouldn't say no to building a tiny home, but I can't demolish this because of all this bureaucracy with precedent. If I demolish this, I quite possibly will never build a permanent house on here ever again if I demolish it, so I've at least got to leave it standing, even if I'm not living in it. And then probably have to claim that I was actually in it. And if they don't like it, I can build a tiny home and live in the tiny home. And I can make one, I can actually get a truck, like big rig, like most of them have been tippers, I think. Ones that are, they're missing bits and pieces off them and they've got like an engine, or they don't have an engine, or they did start but that was 10 years ago, or the engine blew up or whatever. Basically, I can get old tippers, usually without the tipper piece on the back, or, you know, big rigs of some sort these are ones that are built in the 60s that are completely stuffed. $500. You know, a few years ago they would have been worth more than that in scrap metal alone. Not so long ago, as such, when I was cleaning up this place back in 2010, they would have been worth more in scrap metal than the $500 they're asking for them. But scrap metal prices dropped quite a bit, but they are a brilliant basis for a tiny home because it's a super duper heavy duty chassis, and you don't have to do a Troy and then go, oh shit, I have gone over my weight rating, and he's not trying to stick siding on the house because he's over his weight rating, and people are bitching about him being over the weight rating. But I want to still put water. Fuck me, you've got like a 12-ton weight rating, or at least, for even the older trucks, it might have been a bit less, but it's at least, 8-ton or 5-ton. You got a seriously heavy weight rating. Most of the trucks now, I think, the one who come here and delivered this shit for the driveway, that was a 9-ton rating, but a lot of the ones that I've come across tippers, they've got about a 8-ton rating, and their total weight, their gross weight, with a truck that's carrying as much soil as it can carry, or whatever it's carrying, is about 12 tons. But, 8 or 9 ton is not unknown to load these trucks up with. And I would be quite happy to buy one of those $500 truck frames, strip it down, piss the fucking lot off to scrap metal. I'm sure my father would be trying to salvage the engine for himself, and build a tiny home frame on top of it by welding on big heavy RHS, similar to, and I've seen them do portable buildings with it before, that shit there, that I've got for the beams of the roof of this place. I've seen them build entire portable buildings that are on skids, and they're smaller than that, and the skids are actually that exact tubing. Weld a whole heap of that shit onto one of those truck frames and make a brand new tiny home. It'd cost me less than $5,000. Me being me, it'd probably cost about $3,500, and everything would be perfectly brand new inside. It'd be beautiful. I could make it beautiful. And I would be willing to do that for a woman because, well, building something over spring and summer and spending $3,500 on it, or maybe 4 or 5, wouldn't be unrealistic if that's what she needed. But that may not have been so apparent, but I think if they see this place, I know one girl who, we probably weren't suited, worked at a pizza place. I think she already had a boyfriend and was just looking to upgrade to something better. She was about 19. Tits like, never mind, you get the idea. But she was all pretty friendly and chatty to me in there when I used to deliberately go in there to get a pizza just to see her, until she seen Kirsten's video on this place, and that was it. Wouldn't even serve me. She'd get the other girl to serve me. That's how bad it went all of a sudden. And I was too clueless with people to really pick up on what was going on, but then I realised later, I saw her in the supermarket, and holy hell did she move. And I've never seen someone go through a checkout that quick and actually pay for something. So I got the idea. But anyway, I think if this house is a sticking point, yeah, no issues. We can do it up further. But I'm going to tell them, look, I don't really like the idea of pouring a lot of money into a joint that I know is not going to last. But with a tiny home, it may be a little bit different, because if you build it new and you build it right, it is going to last. And then you can sell the bastard when you build a real house. And I want to build a real house right here, and that is the long-term goal. And that's what I want to do. And I'm not going to live in a tiny home for the rest of my life, because because I want a real house. But if I had to live in a tiny home for another 10 years, oh shit, yeah. Yeah, shit. If I had a suitable woman and that was the last stipulation was I'm not living in that because I can hear mice in the walls, which, by the way, is not really an easily fixable problem. The cats do their best. Unless I'm to strip all the flipping things out and put mesh all through the place into areas that are, and half tear the shreds out of the joint trying to even get the mesh into the place, there's going to be mice in the ceiling. But if it was a big stipulation, hell, I could literally start sorting out a tiny home to get ready quite literally today, because I know where I've got to go to get those trucks, and go ahead and do just that. And yeah, so I think that's one that we may have to lay on the table, but I really need to find a girl that's decent. There's a cousin of mine, he's met a girl at his work, and a lot of people thought like some other cousins, we're all never going to get married. All of us, the rate we're going. He found this girl at his work who, she's essentially part of the family. I won't say her name because I don't want to embarrass her. He's 6 months older than me. She's, about the same age as me, and if he didn't fucking marry her, I'll tell you what, I would. She's a brilliant person. She's a bit, not the sort of person you want to have an argument with or want to fucking intimidate. But she's a brilliant girl. She's looks quite alright. She's really quite busty. She's, most of all though, she's got her head screwed on, and she's a good person, and she might be, she's an alpha personality, but in saying that, she's not an alpha personality that's an arsehole. She's an alpha personality that's a nice person, and she thinks fucking logically, and she's not sort of all la-di-da-di-da. She likes camping. She deliberately went out and got a 4x4 purely because she wants something to tow a caravan. She works, it's in another government job. They had redundancies where my cousin was, and she took a redundancy and then moved into a different government job that's quite different, very different from what she was in, but she's a great person, she's become part of the family, and they are talking about getting married, and I tell you what, like, if he turned around and dumped her, fucking hell, I'd be chasing after her, because, but never mind all that, what I'm trying to say is, if there's girls like that out there for him, hopefully there's a girl that good out there for me. And if I can find a girl who's sort of as good as that, I'll be on a roll. We'll be away. But I've got to sort of be, the one thing I may need a bit of help in is barking up the right tree. But I think if I get into places, doing things that interest me, maybe hiking is one of them, naturey sort of stuff, even some of these other joints that, not many girls like mechanical things, and I like to get stuck in a lot of mechanical things, but that's not really a woman's thing to get stuck in mechanical stuff. But so you got to find other things that's like a bit of a unisex thing that we both have the same interest in. And I am very intrigued in edible weeds and even just identifying plants in general. And gardening, although I don't really do much because I'm too busy trying to water the 60-odd trees there and the friggin' 10 or so grapevines down there during summer, and I don't really get much time to play around with other stuff. I do sort of, I won't say that I'm not interested in gardening, not interested in things of that nature, but I've got to find the right things in the right nature that I will actually meet women at, and I don't really think that a steam rally is really going to be one of them, or anything mechanical related is really going to be one of them, because you don't really find that many women in workshop style environments generally. So I've got to find the right places and just make a go of bloody getting to these places and going to these places. Get out there and get into the real world. And I'm good enough with people when I need to be. And we've got to start looking, because if I don't start, you know, I'm going to end up like so many other people in my generation, like some of my female cousins who they're just giving up, you know. One of them had a 40th birthday, and she's already said, look, I wanted to have kids, but I was not willing to become a single mum, and it's too late for me. And she's, you know, very sad about that, but she says the honest truth. And there's another cousin of mine who's, well, she's like 38, and she's looking down the barrel of the same thing, and I'm fucked if I want to go down that same path, you know. And I know my grandfather got married at 42, but what, fucking hell, you know, it's getting too old. And I think the rubber's got to hit the friggin' road. I think it already should have happened when I was 32, and here I am, a few months' time I'll be 34. If I don't get on with it, it'll never happen. But anyway, you've probably copped more than 45 minutes of this, so we'll leave it at that.